Hello, fantasy baseball fans. I'm Paul Williamson. This is Fantasy MLB Today's Sports Ethos presentation brought to you by FanDuel. As always, it's an honor and a privilege to give you all this podcast, give you some information, advice to help you win your leagues, give your team the boost. Before we get the conversation today, where we got Joe Bond joining us to preview the American League East, let me remind you to follow me on Twitter at PaulW_34 to get more of me, ask me questions, hit me up. Same thing on Bluesky, no underscore there. That's at PaulW34 there. Hit me up there. Let's get ready for 2026 together. Make sure you follow Sports Ethos Fantasy Baseball accounts at Ethos Fantasy BB on Twitter, at Ethos Fantasy MLB on Blue Sky to get updates. All of our draft guide content coming out every single day. Got my rankings being updated here soon. They're recording today on Monday. My updated ranking should come out on Tuesday. Got the AK Dynasty 300 from Anthony Cates. We've got all kinds of content and goodies there to help you win. So make sure you follow the accounts there to get those updates. And then one last ask, please rate and subscribe to the podcast, both on YouTube, where you get my Wednesday podcast throughout the off season and into the regular season. So make sure you subscribe to the Sports Ethos YouTube channel. And then, of course, wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, with all that housekeeping out of the way, let's bring in our guest today. It is Joe Bond, the founder of the Fantasy Six Pack, the host of the Fantasy Six Pack Hour podcast. He also is constantly the top 5 in terms of his rankings being accurate per Fantasy Pros. And he also writes for Fantasy Football on USA Today. Joe, man, how you doing, man? Tell us a little bit more where we can find you, what you're up to.
Yeah, man, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, just I'm over on the socials, F6P_Joe, Blue Sky and Twitter, and then yeah, man, most of my stuff's over on Fantasy Six Pack, especially for baseball. But yeah, of course, during football, I do dabble in some USA Today. At least last year I did. We'll see if I'm invited back, but I hope so.
Hey, great exposure, man. That's fantastic, man. That's it's a way to reach a large audience, like we're talking about just before the podcast. So
Mhm.
that's fantastic, man. I'm slightly envious. That's super cool, man. All right. So, like you talked about the fantasy six pack, you have your fantasy six pack fantasy leagues that you're in. We're both in that. We're both drafting there currently. So let's talk a little bit about the draft, man. Who's your favorite pick so far?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know the league, it's called the Fantasy Six Pack Series. If you've ever heard of like TGFBI, which is huge in the industry, it's similar to that but different categories. I wanted to make it a little more casual. Fans versus pros, quote pros, and then just different categories, right? So we do OBP instead of average. We do quality appearances, which is a Fantrax only thing, by the way. It is awesome. Think quality starts, but 5 innings instead of 6. Um, and then we do saves and holds. So again, I just wanted to make it different. All the industry leagues out there, all these invite leagues, they're all the same. They're all the standard 5x5, and I get it. Like that's the legit way to play. But let's have some fun, right? Let's do something different. So that being said, there's 108 people in it this year. There were 120 in last year. 12 team divisions, all drafting for one overall champion. It's a good time. If you are interested, we will probably do it again next year. It'd be year 6. But yeah, my favorite picks. I went a little deeper. I went Ivan Herrera and Max Muncy in around 15, 16. Yeah, Herrera, like I missed out on the top catchers, right? And I know Herrera does not have catcher eligibility and may not even get it for like the first month. They're looking like they're going to slow play him, in that position, saving that elbow. And of course, now he's dealing with like a knee soreness or something too, which is like, oh boy. But this guy is he's such a good hitter. And so like even we start you 3 utilities, like having a utility only guy doesn't crush you in this. Easy places to find him in my lineup. And when he does get catcher eligibility, I mean, I just drafted Alejandro Kirk. He's fine. Herrera will 1000% start over him when he gets catcher eligibility. Herrera, like if he had catcher eligibility, I guarantee he would be going maybe around like the Shea Langoliers area, maybe slightly later.
I've seen it.
Like the injury risk. Like he's just such a good hitter, and OBP is awesome. And then Max Muncy, third base eligibility, which again, another one of those positions where if you don't get one of the top guys, it's sort of like meh. But Max Muncy, like in an OBP league, is a legit guy. It's kind of like Eugenio Suarez, right? Like everybody in average leagues wants to like ignore Suarez and push him down the board a little bit because he'll sink your batting average. Max Muncy's kind of the same way, maybe not as bad, but OBP still legit. And anytime you can get a piece of that Dodgers lineup, I'm going to take it. And he's going cheap enough, 15th, 16th round. I'll definitely take that.
Yeah, yeah. People listen to podcasts know my love for Max Muncy. I've banging on that drum since he got the glasses at the
Right?
midpoint last year. Yeah, apparently that's all he needed. I guess I don't know, man, because it was beautiful at the end of last year. And all the quality contact numbers are all there. He lifts, pulls, barrels, hard hits. I mean, it's all there for him. I think that he is a Joey Gallo type against lefties. So he's not. I don't think he's a strict platoon. So there's some fear on that, but I don't fear that as much. And he hits the ball hard enough that you're gonna be able to get at least like a 230, 240 or so batting average out of him at least. So if you're in a batting average league, that's gonna be able to that'll help you out in that category. But like I said, it's the OBP league, so it's gonna be he's gonna be great in that category for you. And so I love that one. Yvonne Herrera is someone who I also love. I think you're right. He'd be going really early in the catchers if he had that eligibility. I wish he didn't have that knee issue where I have a little more confidence that he would get catcher eligibility, but he's a hell of a hitter. I mean, batting average, power, I keep mentioning batting average in the OBP league, but he has all the tools, all the makings of just a really, really good major league hitter. Eventually because of the knee issues, but I'm pretty sure he had a knee issue last year. He's eventually going to be like maybe a first baseman or corner outfielder, but he's a good enough hitter where he's still going to be more than viable out there. So
Mhm.
I love Ivan Herrera. I think he's a great dynasty buy. I think he's someone that I think is going to be a target for fantasy managers for a very long time. My favorite pick in this one was a surprise that he fell. That was Garrett Crochet falling to 19th overall in the second round. I'm not a drafted pitcher in the first two rounds kind of guy, especially in a 12 team setup. I'm just not that guy. But when I opened up the draft room, the second round pick, and there's Garrett Crochet sitting right there, I'm like, I I had to. This is a guy who's going in the back end of first rounds in a lot of NFBC drafts.
Yeah.
He's an absolute stud. And so it allowed me to really hammer hitting in this draft because like you mentioned, the three util spots. So I think hitters have added value in this league. And so I just pounded hitting because I've got Garrett Crochet that I could just lock in for a ton of strikeouts, great ERA, good volume, all that stuff. And I could just pound those hitters. So I very much I love the Crochet pick for me here because then I was able to really pound out hitters in this league. Any thoughts on Crochet and the things I said on Muncie and Herrera before we move on?
So, I mean, obviously, I agree with you on Herrera and Muncy. Look, I love Crochet, and I'm with you. Like, I don't take the early pitchers. I don't take the guy in the early 1, 2 round. I love me some Scooble. I know he's going to be awesome, but that's just not how I draft. By the way, you got Crochet the latest out of anybody else. The other latest one was a 15 and a 14 overall. Everybody else was in the first round.
Yeah,
So you got him in a very nice spot. And that's the thing. Like I would only take Crochet if he fell to the back end of the second round like that too. And
yeah,
it's just one of those things. Like I feel like the pitching, like we always get guys every year that like come up, and become next year's Garrett Crochet. Like you know, Hunter Brown, right? Last year was going super late and now he's going what, 4th or 5th round, and
yeah.
so like you're getting guys you find these guys every year that kind of make these big leaps. And I feel like you find more pitchers that do that. Um, and just with all the injury scare with elbows and shoulders with these pitchers, like I'm not willing to, take the Scooble, who in any day now could have his arm fall off,
Yeah.
and that's just what it is. And so I want these reliable hitters. You see constantly for years these top hitters, the same guys up to the very top of every draft. And there's a reason for it, right? They're just consistent year in, year out. You will see a fluctuation in pitchers more often. So, but yeah, I mean, I like the value for sure.
Yeah, I know. And for me, the only exception for me are two, one 15 team leagues and draft and holds. I feel like I bumped them up a little bit more, not because of a personal preference here, but because the market is just
Hmm.
screams you got to get your pitching early, and it's a thing where I feel like the market kind of forces me to do these things in those leagues because if I don't, I'm gonna miss out.
Yeah.
Because in my NFBC 50, I took Christopher Sanchez at the back end of the second round. I followed him up with, God, I think my first closer I got in the fourth round was Bednar. And so I don't necessarily love those picks, but if I don't take them, then I'm going to be left with, maybe my SP1 would have been like a, I don't know, like a Jacob Mizorowski kind of,
Yeah, it goes
you know,
fast, man.
yeah, goes so fast. And so yeah, no, I just
Hmm.
it's not my cup of tea, but I think this was the exception here for me. So all right, so who was your least favorite pick so far?
So I ended up taking Jose Caballero in round 19. Really only made the pick for two reasons. One, he's got four position eligibility. So that's pretty nice to have. The other biggest reason is my starting shortstops right now are Lindor and Pena, who
Ooh,
fell in the draft. Like I got Lindor in the third. So I
oh,
was like, I mean, okay, I'll take if he misses a week, that's
sure,
fine. Pena, kind of the same deal. He fell like 3 rounds, and I'm like, "Okay, eventually I'm just gonna take him." Like, he's by far and away the best player on the board. So I'm gonna need a shortstop on opening day, I feel like, and Caballero, not the greatest, but there wasn't really anybody else around in round 19, so I just worst come push come to shove, he'll find my way into, like, a utility spot if I need some extra steals here and there.
right. No, I get you, and that was kind of always been my thing with Caballero is he's like a draft build kind of pick, just depending
Mhm.
on how your team is shaking out. If you're desperate for steals, if you need some depth because you've taken some injured players or some injury risk players, then you get some little added depth there. But that's about it. Generally, I don't understand why Caballero's so expensive this year. I mean, he's going if I remember correctly, he's like just outside the top 200 in these leagues. So I'm just like, man, he's going to be the starting shortstop for the Yankees for maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month before Volpe comes back, and he goes back to be a super utility guy. He doesn't play every day, so he's going to lead the league in steals by the end of April. I'll give you that. But after that, it's not going to be pretty, and so especially in weekly change leagues, man. Like I can't do that
Yeah.
because you don't know who's going to play 2 games or 4 games or when he's going to get into the game on any given basis. And so I don't know. The Caballero is not my favorite pick, but I get why you did it because of the your roster build, the way you get the guys you had on your roster, you needed that depth, and so to me that made a lot of sense on that front. For me, my least favorite pick is Aaron Nola. And so I mentioned earlier about how I went super heavy on the hitters in my league because of the 3 util spot and getting Crochet. But then I get to what did I say, around 19, around 17.
Mhm.
I look at the pitcher board and my league just went crazy with starters. I mean, they were drafting them left and right, like it was a 15-team NFBC league. And I'm going, what? Wait, hold on. Aaron Nola really is the best pitcher I got right now for my SP, I think 3. Ah, crap. So now I'm kind of forced to go into it. And I'm kind of kicking myself because one of the things that I've harped on is saying, watch your draft room. Make sure there isn't a major run. And there was a major run for multiple rounds that I just slept on. I just didn't notice. And now I'm kicking myself because yeah, I got Crochet. And I believe my SP2 in this league is, oh, I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's someone really good. I got a good one too. But man, I'm now going to be struggling three through four. My next round pick was Ryan Nelson. I think he's like my
I
SP4 in
like
this league.
him.
I mean, I do like Ryan Nelson.
I
He's
think
a
he's being
solid
slept on.
floor kind of guy.
Yeah.
And God, he's got such a good fastball. And that with a fastball as good as his, you just need a couple of secondaries that you can just kind of pepper throughout the zone and just be respectable with. And he can, and that's exactly what he did last year. It was some hodgepodge combination of like curveballs and sliders, to go with the 60% plus usage sports team. And it's works out. And so I'm not a fan of Nelson. I would have much rather have been able to wait closer to pick like 240, 250 to get him, as opposed to having to draft him just out of the top 200. But at the same time, like I said, I totally botched this one a little bit from the pitching perspective. And then also, I kind of forgot it was a holds league. And so I drafted Rosel Glacius in like round like 15 or 16. And so that was probably another regrettable pick for a pick of mine because the second I did it, I looked, I was like, wait, this is that fancy six pack league. Oh crap, this is a holds league.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, you've got
I got
Duran and Iglesias. I mean, I will say this. Obviously, I've been in this league. I think this is your first year in it. It is important to have like some lockdown guys that you can trust.
Mhm.
Trying to play the holds roulette wheel throughout the season can be tough.
Yeah.
So I don't hate the Iglesias pick, man. Like in round 15, that's not bad.
That's fair. That's fair. And I'm so that dynasty league I mentioned, we're a holds league there as well. And the way I have to play that one mainly because I inherited a team that didn't have any closers on it. And so when I joined the league, and so I'm playing the holds roulette wheel, like you mentioned, in that league like constantly. I'm just turning and burning holds guys, which can work if you target the right guys, but it's not the greatest. And so it is nice to have that comfort, and it makes it to where now, I probably don't need to take another reliever until very late, maybe just one more at the end. Maybe if like the a backup to Iglesias, Robert Suarez falls a little bit, I'll take him. Um,
He's already gone in your league. I'm looking at it right now.
oh, for real?
All
Oh,
these
snap.
holds
Okay.
guys, these elite holds guys are gonna fly off the board. You watch.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, I bet Brian Abreu's probably already gone too.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, he was someone that I really like a lot, especially in the hold stuff. He's someone going to get 100 strikeouts and plenty of saves and holds, and so he's the guy that I think is really valuable in this type of setup. But yeah, I do have a good basis. I do have a good anchor here for Mike. Even if Iglesias loses his job to Robert Suarez at some point, I don't have to worry about that because Iglesias is still going to be high in the pecking order. And
Right.
so there is some value to Iglesias, maybe and be a little bit too hard on myself. But I have to admit I did forget that it was a holds league when I took. I just have to. Yeah, it just is what it is. Yeah. So, anyways, any more thoughts before we move on?
No, I think we can rock and roll.
Right on, right on. So this is AL East preview podcast here. We're gonna be breaking down all the different teams. We're gonna begin we're going in bottom of the top in terms of how they finished last year. And we'll begin with the Baltimore Orioles. They finished dead last year in the AL East at a 75-87 record. The FanDuel win total for them is at 85.5 wins. The over is sitting at minus 112. The under is at minus 108. What do you think on that win total for the Orioles? Maybe over or under?
Man, that's a tough one. Man, I wanna say over because I just believe in the talent, especially the hitting on this team can get them there. Uh, but man, now that Toronto is legit, the Yankees are good, the Red Sox are back to being, uh, you know, gonna be a very competitive team, and then Tampa always surprises somehow. I think I'm gonna have to go the under, man. I just think the pitching is still gonna just destroy this team. I just don't like it.
I mean, I get it. I get it. I struggled with this one because in my mind, I think they're sitting at around 88 or 89 wins. And so that 88.5 number was I like, ugh. So I think it's kind of the range they're going to be at. I am going to go with the over though, because I like the pitching a little bit more than most. I love Shane Baz and I love Trevor Rogers. And let's see here. Kyle Bradish, I think is going to be a legit guy. So they got a good anchor at the top of the rotation. The bullpen is pretty deep as well. Helsley, Keegan Aiken, and Yanier Cano, Rico Garcia. These guys, I know they didn't have, especially Cano and Aiken, have been kind of inconsistent, especially last year. But they
Mm.
have so much experience in high leverage situations out of the bullpen, and so it is. And also, bullpen seasons are very volatile because of the sample size. And so for me, I think these guys have the stuff and have the makings of a really deep bullpen. And I think that lineup is just absolutely insane. I mean, Samuel Basayo is looking like he's going to be like an 8-hole hitter. That dude we bat in cleanup for a lot of clubs. You got guys like Tyler O'Neill who might not even make the starting lineup. And Tyler O'Neill's
Right.
would start for so many teams. So I love the lineup. I think the pitching is better than what some people might be giving them credit for. So I take the over. I will say though, if this were at like 89.5, I might take the under. But at 88.5, I think they can sniff 90 wins and get to the over on this. So it's really close. That's the thing with these betting future numbers is that these bettors are really smart and the sports
Yeah.
books are really smart. And so it's going to be really difficult to find like a for sure absolute on these over unders. And so for me, I just want to take the slight over on this one. I don't feel super great about it. I wouldn't place the bet if I were anybody else. But if I had to choose, I'd take the over. So yeah. Any other thoughts on the Orioles overall before we get into our specific players?
Uh, no.
Right on, right on. So let's begin with the hitters here. Who is one of your favorite targets for ADP on the Orioles?
So it was Gunnar Henderson until like the late kind of inflation has gotten to him. He's kind of
Mhm.
snuck into that end of the first round, even in 12 team drafts. But in the beginning part of draft season, he was going like 16 or 17. And I thought that was a nice deal, especially in 12 teams. You're getting him, near the middle of the first round or second round. And I was like, absolutely. But he keeps creeping up. I think people are remembering just how good he really is when
Oh,
he's right. And so it was him. Outside of him, man, there's really not a lot of value to be found on this team as far as draft value. But Jackson Holiday, like I know he's gonna miss some time. Doesn't sound like it's gonna be too long. And look, second base is probably the worst hitting position for fantasy baseball this year. I mean, it's Ketel Marte, Jazz Chisholm, Bryce Terang, and then good luck. Like
yeah,
it's not good. Unless you play on
yeah.
Yahoo and Michael Garcia still has second base, right? Like that's it. But Jackson Holiday has fallen to around pick 200. This guy, a month ago was going inside the top 10 for second baseman. Nah, I don't think he's like awesome. But I think at pick 200, you miss a week or two for him, and that's super value for him.
Yeah, no, the thing with Holiday for me was so he had kind of a tale of two halves last year. The first half, the Statcast numbers were really nice, like a 10%, I believe, on the barrel, 44% on the hard hit. The second half, those numbers decreased. But what he did was he improved his play discipline and his hit tool in the second half. In the second half, we saw the end zone contact rate go up to 88%. The swing and strike rate dropped to 7.8%. And so, in my opinion, that's just a young hitter getting things figured out. He really worked on his play discipline. He really worked on his quality on his overall contact numbers. And so I think headed into this year, we should see him put it all together. We saw him hit the ball really hard, show his quality of contact in the first half. He made some adjustments, made more contact, but less quality contact in the second half. Just like he's just a young guy just trying to figure it out, man. Like he was a first full year in the majors last year. I think the second season, I think that he's really going to figure it out. And I think he's a great draft and stash candidate, especially of an IL spot there to open up things, and hey, maybe you pick up Jose Caballero to begin with. I believe he has second base eligibility to
He
go in
does. He's
shortstop and third
everything
base
but
and outfield.
catcher, and I think first.
Yeah, yeah, and so, like, just
Pretty
pick up
nice.
someone like him to kind of fill in for the first part, and then boom, you put in Jackson Holiday and you're set. I mean, he had 17 and 17 last year. I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's only gonna get better.
I
And
agree.
so yeah, I love Jackson Holiday. But for me, my target here is Taylor Ward. I think this guy has incredible value here. His ADP is a just round pick 150. In my rankings, I have him inside the top 125. He got 36 homers last year, and he got listen to this as an Angel, he got to 103 RBI and 86 runs scored. As an Angel, going to Baltimore with this kind of lineup, his ability to get on base, going to be probably batting at the top, first two or three batters in the lineup. He's going to score a ton of runs, going to get on base. He's going to get a lot of RBI. Has legit power and metrics here. He has volume, 660 plate appearances in two straight seasons. 13% barrel rate, two straight seasons. I think the batting average is going to come back to around 240 or so. That's where all the projections have him. That's where he kind of was before last year, kind of plummeted. That's because he started to lift the ball more, became more of a fly ball heavy hitter last year. I think we're going to see him get a little bit more line drives here. I think he's going to kind of normalize some of that. So I think he's someone to get 25 to 30 homers. He's going to sniff 90 runs, going to get over 100 RBIs. Probably more than that, honestly. I think I might be underselling him there. I think the county stats are great. The power numbers are there. I love Taylor Ward this year. I mean, he was. I mean, I thought that was a solid. I don't want to say I think it's a solid trade for Baltimore there because Grayson Rodriguez is such a major question mark at this point,
Mhm.
and so and it's to get someone like Taylor Ward at the top of the lineup, his abilities. I like the trade for Baltimore on that front.
Yeah, I like Ward. The only thing would be, again, average leagues. I don't know if he's a 228 hitter, but hopefully closer to 240. But that still kind of hurts your batting average in those types of leagues. And he's not a big OBP guy, like because his batting average is so low, even though he walks a good number of times, the
Mm.
OBP is like just league average. And so that's that's okay. But man, yeah, that kind of power that late in a pretty substantially, O's lineup is pretty nice.
Yeah, and I think of the batting average is that I don't think he's gonna like tank you. He's not someone gonna bat like 210. He's
Yeah.
240 is still right around league average. The league average, the batting average last year was like 240 246, something like that. And so he's not necessarily going to tank you in batting average. And I think that he's, if he was batting close to the Mendoza line, then yeah, he'd probably be a fade. But it's not like Joey Gallo kind of bad here. Where he's going to have a solid batting average. Okay, so a batting average that won't tank you, and that's what I'm kind of looking for here because I can surround Ward with a lot of good batting average guys and kind of help Bowie that category. And at pick, he's going to pick 150 or so. Once you get past pick 100, you're looking at guys that are going to be just like three or four category guys. You're not going to have like legit five category producers at this point. And so I very much am, especially if you're able to kind of solidify your batting average early in the draft. And there's also plenty of batting average targets later. So it is a concern, but I don't think it's an overriding factor, if that makes sense.
Nope. It does. Makes sense to me.
Right on. All right. So let's move on to the pitchers here. Who's your favorite pitcher target for on the Orioles?
Um, so it is Shane Baz. Look, ADP of around 195 right now is just insanely cheap for him. I unfortunately have not been able to get him anywhere because somebody else in my league likes him way more.
Yeah.
Not shockingly, actually. I'm surprised his ADP is as low as it is. Like, we know how good Baz can be, right? And everybody, I think what the problem is everybody's looking at last year's inflated like 5 ERA. He got destroyed in Steinbrenner Field. His ERA at Steinbrenner Field, I believe, was like 5.9. Um, Outside of Steinbrenner Field, it was 3.86.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
hello, like, what are we doing here?
Mhm.
Still playing in the AL East, so, he's still got those lineups that you're having to face here. But I just, we've seen him do it. He's just got to obviously health is an issue with him at times. So, but yeah, I mean, at that price, like 16th round in a 12-teamer, like that's cheap. And I mean, how many times have you dropped your 16th round player in a 12-team league?
Yeah. Yeah.
All the time, right? So, like,
Yeah.
who cares? Take the chance
Yeah.
on this massive upside from Shane Baz.
Yeah, I think the move away from Cyber Field is gonna be huge for him. And man, that knuckle curve is so good. I mean, every turn I didn't write down the whiff rate, but there's an incredible whiff rate on that curve. I his stuff is just electric. It's there for him. I think Baltimore has shown they can get more out of their pitchers. Look at the development of guys like Cade Povich, the way Trevor Rogers performed last year. I think they've got the development there to get the most out of Boz. And I think he's going to be kind of rejuvenated going to a legit contender in Baltimore. And the thing is, I have Boz ranked ahead of who my target is in my rankings. I just because I love my target, but I love Boz more. And so I very much am in on Shane Boz. I love the stuff. I love the abilities here, and the draft price is perfect. Like you said, why not just go ahead and he's one of them, but he's the reason why you can fade pitching in these 12-team leagues,
Yeah.
because you can get guys like Boz who have SP1, SP2 type upside late in drafts, and so he's I yeah no, I got nothing else to add on to Boz. So my target here is Trevor Rogers. And I'm surprised his ADP didn't just explode after his career year last year. And I'm all for it though. He's currently going, I think, in like around top your SP 50 or so. I've got him close to the top 40 in my rankings. I think that the 181 ERA obviously is not sustainable, but he's got good ERA metrics, the 340x ERA, a 282 on the FIP. Good strikeout to walk numbers, 24% strikeout, 6% on the walk. Good swing and miss, 12.5 with a swing and strike rate. These numbers aren't necessarily too far off from what we've seen from do in the past. So it's not like these numbers are like crazy outliers. He misses barrels 7.6% on the barrel rate. He's got he's got a sweeper slider kind of combination here that returns really good whiff rates. He's able to limit damage with the way he integrates his changeup and sinker to induce those ground balls and induce the soft contact that he needs to limit the damage. So I think the pitch mix is there for him to continue to be a really good arm. I love Trevor Rogers. Our podcast we focus on pitcher streams last year throughout the regular season, and he was one that I was banging on the drum for since he got called up for Baltimore. I've loved him then. I love him now. What are your thoughts on Rogers?
Yeah, I mean, I'm I'm skeptical of him a little bit.
Okay.
Like we saw the season, I believe it was 2022, 2021, where he was amazing for the Marlins, right?
Mhm.
Came back the next year, was not so amazing, like a 5.5 ERA, like, okay. Then all the injuries got him, right? And when he finally came back in 24, was not very good with the Marlins, came over the trade, was not good for us, initially. And I say us because I'm an O's fan, if you guys are seeing the stuff back here. Um, and then, yeah, last year was just incredible. Nobody's expecting what he did last year for a full season. Look, a couple things like BABIP was extremely low, 226. Left on base rate was 84%. Those numbers are going to regress like drastically in the other direction. He is a ground ball pitcher. That helps. Is with a pretty good defense behind him, that's definitely going to help. But we need Holiday and Westberg to get healthy in order for that defense to be good. Um, is he as bad as a 5 ERA, which is what he had the season before, and then his other healthy season? No. Does he fall somewhere probably closer to like a high three, like low 4 ERA? I kind of think he is, and so I do think you're actually paying more for him than you probably should with those kind of numbers.
I mean, I get it. I do. It's just I'm a believer in that pitch mix. I love the numbers, the results that we're seeing against the changeup and sinker, especially the way that they're able to induce the soft contact and get all those ground balls. You can combine that with the whiffs coming from the sinker, from the slider sweeper that he's got. I think that he's going to be able to limit the damage enough. He doesn't walk anybody. Good decent strikeout number, good swing and miss on it. I do agree that he's going to need a little bit of help from his defense because he does have a little bit of high hard hit to go with the ground ball. So it would be nice if Westberg and Holiday can get healthy to man the left side of the infield there. But at the end of the day, I think he induces enough ground balls. I think he misses enough bats that I think he's going to be more of a mid 3 ERA, kind of a 3.4, 3.5 kind of dude. And I think he's going to be able to limit the walks. It's going to help the whip. And so I can see a world in which he can get up on that ERA up above the 3.8, 3.9 threshold and start to sniff four. And he doesn't really have the strikeout upside to buoy that. But I think drafting him as your SP 3, 4 kind of guy, as the 40th or so starting pitcher off the board for me. I don't think it's like an extreme price to pay, given that he has probably top 25 upside. In terms of like the best version of him, the best version of him is going to be that. The floor is probably more top 50, top 55 or so, which, this is where his draft price is, right? And so I think that, there's a medium ground here for me. And that's where I got him at 40th. So I'm not going to rank him top 25, but I think it's possible. But I also don't think he's going to be the low 4 ERA guy either. So I'm kind of in the middle on that one. So you want to discuss Trevor Rogers a little bit more on that before we move on?
No, I think we can keep going.
Cool. Right on. Now let's talk a little bit about prospects here. Who is a prospect? Preferably non-debut, but if you got some other guys you want to talk about, that's totally fine. That you're keeping an eye on for this year.
Yeah, somebody that I think is going to get some spot starts. Luis De Leon, like the O's prospect list is not what it once was. That all those guys have graduated or we've traded them or whatever, and so De Leon is the guy who I think he even redraft league managers should be paying a little bit of attention to when he gets the call up. So oh, sorry. Strikes out a bunch of guys, and like most minor league guys at this point, like command can be an issue, which is the one thing you really like. This is why he's probably not like really high up in his prospect rankings, is because the command, and if you don't have the command in the majors, you're going to get absolutely shelled. But he's got strikeout stuff, and so like he can get himself out of trouble. That helps.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Whenever he does get that call up, he's probably going to be a really good guy to call upon as a streamer in 12-team leagues, especially depending on the matchup. If he's getting called up and he's going to be facing like the Rays and Tropicana or something like that, then yeah, no, absolutely pick him up and stream him wherever you can. So he's definitely someone that I agree. I think he's someone that can really make an impact this year. If he can find a way to have an everyday spot in the rotation due to injuries, that would be great. But more than likely, he's someone's going to be a spot starter kind of guy. With the Orioles trying to preserve the health of guys like Boz and Rogers and I'm blanking Kyle Bradish. There we go. Trying to give those guys some added rest in between the season and in between starts. So I can definitely see him getting the call up for that kind of thing. For me, the prospect I'm watching is going to be Nate George. He is someone that the Nationals drafted over slot. And that's the thing that I'm really looking at when it comes to prospects is what kind of faith, what kind of trust is the organization putting into them. And anytime you got a team that's going to go over slot to sign someone to prevent them from going to college, is definitely someone I'm just going to pique my interest. I'm saying, okay, well, if the Orioles are going to kind of go a little bit above and beyond for this guy, and these guys, and their front office, their baseball people are way smarter than me. So it's going to make me pay attention. Last year, he only hit 5 homers and 390 plate appearances, but he did have 50 steals. And so the speed is already there. And a lot of prospects, a lot of scouting organizations, a lot of scouts are saying that he's got the ability to get some power. I think the Baseball America raw power is like 50, 55. Same thing on Fangraphs. And he already is pulling the ball nicely. Last year, let's see here, he had a what was it, a 40? I don't have the number here, but I remember correctly, he was already starting to pull the ball a little bit. He doesn't have a major ground ball problem right now at 46.7% on the ground ball, 24% on the line drive. So already has a good line drive approach. And so he's someone that I think if he can start to tap in to some of that raw power, then I think he can really start to climb prospect lists, and really make some noise, because that's really the only question at this point. We know about the hit. He's got a good hit tool, good strikeout to walk numbers. Can he tap into that power? Is really the only question for George. You have any thoughts on Mr. George before we move on to the Rays?
No, not really. I think I told you before the show, like, not the biggest prospect guy, so I know some of the top end dudes, but you start going deep into these like 19-year-olds, I sort of fizzle out.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. And I would, like I said, like I told you before, I'm very much new to this. I've been in a dynasty league with my co-lead Anthony Case for a little over a year now. And I inherited just kind of a dumpster fire of a team in that league that I've been trying to retool and repiece together for a little while now. So and even for me, it's Nate George is someone that I didn't really know before I started research on this podcast, and then I just kind of stumbled upon him, and so I kind of like him now. I'm glad I did. It's another person to kind of put into the memory bank. So let's move on to the Tampa Bay Rays. They're the fourth place finisher in the AL East last year with a 77-85 record last year. The FanDuel odds on the over under on the win total here is 76.5 wins. The over sitting at -104, the under is at -118. In terms of the over under on the wins here, you got the over or under. What you got here?
I mean, it's the Rays, you have to go over. I feel like it's
Mhm.
always over. Like, they
Yeah,
find a way to surprise you, right? Last year was their worst season in quite some time.
yeah.
And I just, they always seem to find a way to get production out of guys we didn't think you would get production out of. Like, they're a small market team. They're not going to spend a lot of money, but it works for them. And so I don't know. I'm going to go the over.
Yeah, ditto. I'm on the over as well. They're moving back to the Trop, and their team is built for the Trop. Like that. That's how their analytical minds in the small market team. They're over there working on to their strengths. And their strength is they pitch. They play in a pitcher's park, and so they got the pitching staff there really needs to be in the Trop for them to be effective. Being inside center field just threw everything for a loop last year,
Yeah.
for them as a team. Moving back to the Trop is going to be huge. I think they easily get to 80 wins, if not more. And I think they always surprise you. You look at the lineup, you're like, it's a Taylor Wells. Like, who are these people? And then they're like in Major League. The guys read the newspaper like, who the hell are these guys? And then next thing you know, they're popping off and they're contenders. And so yeah, the Rays always seem to find a way to do it, no matter who they got, no matter what kind of issues they got. They got depth. They've got, they know how to play the platoon game in order to get the most out of their guys, which isn't great for fantasy, but it's great for them. And so I very much am in on them in terms of a team overall. Who are some of your hitter targets on this team?
So I wrote down Jonathan Aranda. I'm reluctant to buy the Tampa Bay hitters because I do think a little bit of their cost is inflated from last year because people are seeing the numbers. But remember, they're not playing at San Brenner Field. They're going back to the Trop, and those numbers are going to dip, right? And but Aranda is just if you miss out on one of those top 5 or 6, if you get through, like, the Harper, Olsen, Devers range from first base, right? I am a punt first base after that. Like, I don't care. I'm not gonna reach on any of these guys anymore. The, you know, the Matt Bushes and Pasquutinos, they're fine. But I can get Aranda, I can get Spencer Torkelson, 5, 6, 7 rounds later, and they are almost the exact same player. And Aranda is quite possibly maybe a little bit lower power numbers, but his batting average and OBP are going to destroy guys like Torkelson and even like Pasquantino and Michael Bush and stuff like that. So I like Aranda because I feel like if you need a late, especially if you need like a late round average boost, he's gonna be that guy. Um,
Mhm.
and the power is still sort of like we're not quite sure. Hit 14 last year, but it wasn't a full season. Projections are right around like 2021. I mean, that's probably pretty fair if he actually gets the full season. So like you're gonna need some power around him to make that pick work. But it's again, I think he's a very cheap, backup plan for first base if you miss out early on.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Amanda, and I love the power actually. Pull air rate is has consistently increased over the last couple of seasons, gone up to 24.1%. Elite on the barrel, 90%, 90th percentile in xWOBA, expected batting average, expected slugging, hard hit
Mhm.
rate, and launch single sweet spot. And so he's lifting the ball, pulling the ball, barreling it, hitting it hard. Those are all the things you love to see. That type of power will play in a place at Tropicana. Now the one thing I did not look up, and I'm not 100% sure if he's going to be one of the platoon guys in Tampa. And this is the way they love to play matchups. I might be the only ding on him.
It
But
doesn't
at
look
the
like it right now. I'm looking on roster resource, which is where I go to over there
end,
for a lot of that, and he doesn't have that
yeah,
red L,
yeah.
which is, if you're left-handed, you get the red, if you're right-handed, you get the blue. He doesn't have it. So and I think that makes sense. Like, they don't really have another first baseman that I think they would be
Mhm.
able to trust there.
Exactly. That's about what I was about to say is that like they also have so many other guys like Cedric Mullins that are absolutely platoons that you can't platoon everybody. Not everybody
Right.
you can't substitute the entire lineup. So it's only about two or three guys that can be platoon, and I don't think Iran is one of them. And the other guy that I don't think is one of them is my target is Yandy Diaz. I love Yandy Diaz. I think people are sleeping on his power. He hit 22 homers playing in Tropicana once before, and that's because he got the barrel rate up to 9% that year. It was at just over 8% last year. And he makes a ton of contact. That hit tool of his is incredible. So yes, he has a lift problem. He has way too many ground balls. But if he can just keep that barrel rate in the 8 to 9% range to go with that elite hit tool, that's a good quantity of barrels, right? He's going to make a lot of contact with an 8 or 9% barrel rate. So that's going to play up to like a more 10 to 11% range because of the amount of contact he makes. And so I think he's someone that can get the 20 homers again. We all know about the batting average. He's batting at the top of that lineup, so he's going to get plate appearances. And he's a guy. He's one of the only guys in Tampa that will not be platoon that will play every day leading off.
He
Uh,
hopes to
you
be
know,
DH.
yeah, yeah, and he's someone that he's gonna play. And
Yeah.
he's just a rock solid hitter. I think he's going something like let me see if I wrote down his ADP here. Let's see here. No, but I bet I have it pulled up. He's going way too late. No, he
134.
was that?
Looks like 134 on NFBC for the last month in
Yeah.
that 12 team.
Yeah, and I've got no problem taking him close to the top 100.
Mm.
I got, like, no problem with that. With that type of batting average, that type of
Yeah.
ability to accumulate counting stats, sneaky power to go with it. He's just so rock solid. And I've got no problem reaching for him. And he was a big buy for me last year. Last year and the price hasn't the price hasn't gone up so much that I'm out. I'm definitely still very much in a Yandy Diaz. He's just one of my favorite hitters. I love him so much.
5-degree launch angle though does scare you. That
Yeah,
is for
yeah,
sure.
and honestly, if the barrel rate, if the because the barrel rate hadn't always been this good for him. The barrel rate in previous
Yep.
seasons for the last 3 or 4 seasons has been kind of middling and have been not anywhere close, I don't think, to league average. But the fact that now the last 3 seasons we've seen him be around 8 to 9% on that barrel rate,
Mhm.
I think is what gets me to 20 homers for him, and what gets me in because I think he's now more than just a batting average asset. I think he's got a little bit more power to him than he has in the past. And that barrel rate goes away. At least the batting average and the run scored and stuff gives you a floor to work with if the power does go away. And I think but I don't think the power goes away. I think we've seen enough now over the last couple of seasons that I can trust it. I feel like I can trust it. And so yeah, and a lot of people might be thinking that he's moving away from Steinbrenner Field going to the Trop, but he already hit 22 homers once before the Trop before they
Sure.
moved. And so I believe in him. I'm a Yandy Diaz truther, so to speak. So yeah, any more news hitters before we move on to the pitchers?
Nope.
Right on, right on. Who's your pitcher target here for the Rays?
So Shane McClanahan, going around pick 200, over 200. Look, we know how good this guy can be. Health is always his, it is his problem right now. Looking good in the spring. Like the stats don't like completely blow you away. Like only 4.5 Ks per nine and like his one, 2 inning start. Woohoo! But he hit 98, man. He hit 98 on the radar, and like
Yeah, it's really great.
that's the type of stuff you want to see. You want to see that fastball back for a guy like McClanahan, and I think you get a couple more starts, like this under his belt. I think we're gonna see that ADP just go. And another guy like Shane Baz, where I have not been able to get him. I have not been able to pull the trigger fast enough on him in drafts. There is always somebody in my draft that likes him more than me, and I just miss out.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the crazy thing about me whenever I talk about all these targets. I love this guy. I love this guy. I look at my teams like I don't
Don't
have
have
any of
any
you
of
guys on my team. So I'm like, what's going on here? What do I really like him that much? But it's always because you love the hype guys, and then there's always someone in the lead that goes, "Oh, I'm gonna take him. Pick 150. I'm gonna get him right here." You're like, okay, have fun.
Yeah.
Like
But then it's
uh,
not a value, man. Now you're paying for,
exactly.
possible ceiling.
Yeah. Exactly, exactly. And the whole point of this is to find that value. And so if he is falling to that pick 200 range, then great. But there always seems to be someone that just like you say, this loves him, this goes crazy and gets him. I that's what happened to me in one of my leagues with Roman Anthony. Someone took him in like the second round. I'm like, "Ah, damn it, really?" Like I was wanting him, it is what it is, and so you got to make sure you don't. You can love guys, just don't fall in love so much that you just go crazy. McClanahan is someone who I drafted in a couple of mocks so far. He's someone that I think is definitely more of a 12-team buy than a 15-team league buy, in my opinion, to target that upside because the replacement value on the wire is going to be better for you. But yeah, at pick 200, I think is a good price, especially considering where we're at in the in spring, what we've seen so far. Just kind of a sneak peek thought here that he's going to rise in my Williams to 300 in the next update because of what we've seen from him so far, because the progress has been good. Because my only concern has been the injury he's coming off of. This nerve irritation thing is
Mhm.
there's no, like, it's rare. There's nothing to fall back on in terms of like what other pitches look like coming off of this injury. And so that was kind of the one thing that where I had him, I think, close to like pick 250, 260 in my rankings because it's such a rare thing. We don't really have like a history to fall back on and say, oh well, this guy had it, he came back like this guy got it, but we've never seen this kind of thing really from pitchers, and so that kind of scared me a little bit. But the more we see from him in spring training, I'm not looking at results, of course, looking at the stuff, and like you mentioned, the velocity's been there for him. And so that's why he's going to start to raise in my rankings. I'm probably going to get him closer to 200 in my ranks. I don't know if I'm going to go far into the 200 yet. Maybe in a couple of weeks, if we continue to see progress, then I can bump him up a little bit more. But like you said, I mean, if he falls me around pick 200 right now, and I need I need something, then I'm going to roll with it. So yeah, no, I'm definitely in on him. Yeah, I heard on the meeting, man. So cool. Let's move on to let's see here. My target here, I got two. I'll just talk about it real quickly. Ian Seymour. Question: does he make the rotation is going to be the problem here? But I love the fact that strikeouts and walk numbers carried over from the minors into the majors. I love the fact that we're let's see here. He had a 3.63 ERA with a 3.19 FIP. Induced soft contact, 7.1 in the barrel, 75% overall contact, 12.1 in the swinging strike. Those numbers were a little bit better in the minors. And so going to the majors, we did see him get good swing and miss, and it was close enough to his minor league numbers that I think he can grow in more into it. And so I love Ian Seymour as a late round flyer. And then Drew Rasmussen, man, he had a 2.76 ERA last year pitching outside of Tropicana. His ratio is going to be
Yeah.
even better now, I think. I hope, and I don't know for sure. I haven't read anything on what any kind of reports, but I feel like this year they're going to turn him loose. He's going to get to 180, 190 innings this year. So he's going to be able to accumulate strikeouts because right now the strikeout rate is only around 21, 22%. But if he can accumulate and get to 180, 190 innings, that's fine. That's going to be enough strikeouts to go with excellent ratios. And so I love Drew Rasmussen this year. And I really hope Ian Seymour makes the rotation because I think he can be really productive. Any thoughts on those two dudes?
No, man, I love Rasmussen as well. Dude, 5 straight years of a below 3 ERA. That's
Yeah.
unreal.
Yeah.
Just
No,
unreal.
yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, before the injuries, he's had a swinging strike rate above 11% before. And so I think there's a little room to grow on the strikeouts there. Yeah, no, I love Rasmussen. I think people are sleeping on him. Let's talk a little bit on the prospects here. Who's a prospect you're watching here for the Rays?
Yeah, much like the O's guy, going to pitcher here, Brody Hopkins, strikeouts are for real with this kid, man. Super athletic
Mhm.
guy, was at one point a hitter, switched over to the mound, which is unbelievable. The fact that he's throwing like triple digits. I mean,
Yeah.
he hits like 96, 97, 98 pretty regularly. He can hit triple digits, so he can strike out everybody. But mechanics can get a little wonky with him, and he can walk some guys, so he's got to get that under control. But definitely somebody that I am very interested in seeing hit the majors at some point this year.
Yeah, no, Hopkins is definitely someone that I'm watching. The guy I'm watching is Gary Gill Hill. This guy's currently pitching for Great Britain in the World Baseball Classic. Didn't look great against Mexico. But what I'm watching for Gary Gill Hill is can he get the swing and miss back? In low A ball in 2025 or 2024, sorry, he had great strikeout numbers, good swing and miss, and has always induced a ton of ground balls. A heavy sinker ball guy. The question is going to be, can he start to get some more swing and miss back to his profile this year? Because he's always so from my opinion, Gary Hill, his floor as a major leaguer is kind of Jose Soriano kind of guy, heavy sinker baller. You do see a lot of ground balls in order to reduce the damage against him. But if he can start to develop, I believe it was the changeup slider combination. He's got to start peppering that in the zone more. If he can start to throw let's see here, the changeup and the slider for more strikeouts to keep those pitches in the zone, then I think I can buy into him more. I traded for him in that dynasty league I mentioned earlier, and I'm watching him closely because I think he's someone that can really, really. I mean, the Rays' pitching development is incredible, and so I
Oh yeah.
really think that they're going to be able to get a lot out of Gary Gil-Hill. So, all right, any more on the prospects before we move on to the Red Sox?
No, let's do it.
Cool, right on, man. The Red Sox last year finished in third place. They're 89 and 73. The over under on the win totals over at FanDuel is 87.5 wins. The over odds are at minus 115, under at minus 105. What you got? The over under.
Oh, I'm
Yeah, this was
gonna
tough.
go just over, man. I like we talked about how I'm not a big fan of the the Orioles pitching staff, but I really like their hitting. It's like the complete opposite for this team. Like I like the pitching staff a lot more. Crochet is obviously like one of the best. Richard Suarez, Sonny Gray, I think very underrated. Brian Bello,
Eh,
good at times.
yeah.
But, I think they're gonna figure it out. Really good bullpen there too, as well with Chapman and Whitlock. So and I think the offense is gonna be good enough. Obviously, Story's gotta stay healthy and things like that, but I think this offense, and with guys like Roman Anthony and hopefully Marcelo Mayer, taking another step forward, I think the offense is gonna be good enough to carry them over that win total.
I've got the under here a little bit, and like I mentioned on here, I put barely. It's another one of the situations, one of those bets I would not place personally myself, but you put a
Mhm.
gun in my head to tell me to make a prediction on the podcast. So I'm gonna go a little bit on the under. I actually, you mentioned the bullpen. I'm not a big fan of the bullpen actually. Roldis Chapman. I don't know if the walk rate's going to stay that good again. It was
No.
very outliery, and I don't know why. If I remember correctly, I did a little research on this. There was a point in spring training last year where I guess previously he would just throw his fastball wherever and never really tried to aim. And then now they told him, okay, throw the fastball inside. And now he's actually aiming for it. That doesn't track for me. I don't know what it is that got that walk rate to be so good all of a sudden. And so I don't know how much I trust that walk rate for Chapman. Garrett Whitlock had a really good season last year, but was it a one off? I don't know. Justin Slayton is very on, he's not a very inspiring arm there in the bullpen. So I'm not the bullpen has way too many question marks for me on that front. And then the offense I think is solid. But the bottom part of that lineup is I think it's very top heavy in Boston. You got the top 4 or 5 are solid. But guys like Caleb Durbin is going to be the 6-hole hitter. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not
Don't
super
love it.
inspiring. And so I'm gonna go the little bit on the under, but I love the starting rotation. I think
Yeah.
going up there and getting Sonny Gray, getting bringing in Johan Aviado, I think are in it to go with the depth with Toley and Early, backing them up at the back end there. I love the rotation depth. I just wonder if the offense has enough punch and if the bullpen's going to be able to carry it over. Especially in this division where the Rays are going to be better. The Blue Jays are who they are with the Yankees taking strides, and so I don't know. I'm taking the under, but it very much is slightly. I'm thinking they're an 86, 87 win team as opposed to 88, 89. But I mean, like, hey, that's just the difference of 2 or 3 games. That's just, does the ball fly a little bit more out of the ballpark to get them a home run they really needed? Then they win an extra game. And then your
Mhm.
over under bet is gone. And so, it's not my favorite bet one way or the other, but if I had to choose, I'm going with the under. Any additional thoughts before we move on to our targets?
Nope.
Cool, right on, man. Who's your hitter target here for the Red Sox?
You know, uh, I told you, like, I don't really love the offense, and I do think some of their ADP is slightly inflated, partially because they're the Red Sox.
Yeah.
But Jarren Duran, like, this was a guy that was going in the 2nd and 3rd round just last
Mhm.
season, right? And I know people were, like, projecting, like, him to take another step, right? Um, but he basically did the same thing outside of, like, the run and RBI totals kinda dipped last year. But I mean, I think, we're gonna get a guy who has the same skill set, right? And I could see another 2020 season out of him pretty easily, get his batting average back up. I mean, he had 2 seasons of 295 and 285, and then for some reason it just plummeted to 250. Like, okay, I don't really nothing in his batting profile changed all that dramatically, just, had a little bit of bad bib luck, go against him there, I feel like, and so yeah, I think he's a talented player. Is he a second or third round pick player? No, but he's going in like the 6th round. I think that's more than fair. And when I'm looking at the rest of this, Red Sox, if you're looking for like a value player, I think that's the best one there.
Yeah, and like I love the skill set for Durant. My only problem here is it's really bad against lefties last year. I mean, against lefties last year for Durant, I think it was like a 29% on the strikeout rate, only like 3 homers and 200 or so plate appearances. I'm trying to find my notes here. Let's see
You're
here.
right.
Yeah, yeah. So,
211
so
batting average,
211
not
batting
good.
average. Yeah, 3 homers, a 29% strikeout rate, just a 3% on the walk rate. And I don't think it was that bad in 2024. This was
It
might just
wasn't.
be a 1 year kind of thing. Because the thing with left righty splits is that the sample sizes are notoriously small, and
Mhm.
so it's I can see him getting back to being good against lefties. He's not listed as a platoon right now on roster resource, and so it's not a major risk, but it's definitely a risk for me enough where like I don't know if I'm reaching for him. If he falls somewhere in the 6th, 7th, maybe 8th round or so, I can see me taking the shot. But he's not someone that I'm overly excited to draft. Just because at this draft price, I can find solid value in other guys that I know are going to not be platooned. And so, but man, the upside is really good. I mean, it is 5 category upside here with Duran, and so I don't hate the pick. If I'm not going to be like, oh, you're taking Duran the 5th round, what's wrong with you? Like I get it because the upside really is there. Just for me and my taste, I don't I kind of fear that at some point, mid year, if the numbers against lefties don't improve, then he might end up being platooned. And that just scares me a little bit too much at that draft price. But man, I get the upside. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Again, this Red Sox offense isn't one I'm really targeting in drafts unless they fall a good bit, and most of them are not. So I don't
Yeah.
have any Duran yet.
Right, right. Yeah, ditto. Then the targets I have listed here are Roman Anthony and Willier Abreu. Roman Anthony, man, I've got him well inside my top 50, and he's going outside the top 50 right now in drafts. And I love the talent. You're looking at a guy that had like a 15% barrel rate and 60% on the hard hit rate last year as a rookie. He got the strikeout rate a little bit under control at 27%. He's a very selective swinger, very selective. He doesn't chase. He picks his pitches. The end zone contact rate got up to around like 82% last year. That number was around 85 or so percent in the minors. So again, we have a situation here where transferring from the minors to the majors, we saw like it not like it bottomed out. It's not like he got to the majors and we saw like a sub 80% on the end zone contact rate, or we saw like a sub 70% on the overall contact rate. We have numbers in the plate discipline department that we can kind of play with, right? He already showed he can get above 70% of the overall contact. He's shown he can get to 82% or so in the end zone contact. Now, can he make that next step? So I love that. The lift will be a problem. He's got a high ground ball rate. But when you have the barrel rate in the 15% plus range, 60% on the hard hit, I can kind of overlook that because I can see him really turning enough of those fly balls into hits. And then Willier Abreu is someone who I am in on. Yes, he also has a platoon issue with him, but in a very, very small sample size against lefties, the numbers were pretty solid. He actually struck out less against lefties on a strikeout rate than he did against righties. I think he batted around 230. The ISO was like 148. Respectable numbers at least against lefties. But again, super small sample. I think it was like something like 70 plate appearances or something. So I can't put too much weight into it. But he's going pretty late. He's kind of going in that I think of the Palooza podcast. They call it Platoonsville, kind of range. And so I like William Brayer. I love the talent. I love the hard hit data that we have from him. And so I'm a little more in on Abreu at his current draft price. And same with Anthony. Your thoughts on these two names before you move on?
Man, I'll tell you, like, Anthony's been a big fade of mine at his cost. I love the fact when he makes contact, man, it counts. Like,
Mhm.
except, a lot of times the ground ball, but man, if he gets it up in the air, like, he just hits the crap out of the ball. It's really hard. BABIP last year was 404, hit 292. That looks awesome, right? Expected batting average was 258, and that's because of the 27, almost 28% strikeout rate. Sure, that could improve and probably will, as he gets more accustomed to major league, pitching. But if he doesn't constantly hit 50, 60% hard hit rates, like, that batting average is going to plummet to, like, the 260 range, which is exactly where projections have him. And then you're looking at it, right? A full season projections, like ATC and Bat and all those guys, like, they're projecting, like, 19 home runs and maybe 10 steals, and we're drafting him in what round? Like, that's
His
a
ADP
dude I
is
can
just
get.
outside the top 50.
I mean, that's a dude I can get in round, like, 15.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, no,
that
that's
is
obviously
those exact numbers are like, if the projections hit, that is a terrible pick. Now, if he hits, if the prospect of him hits, right, and the
Mhm.
ceiling hit for him hits, yeah, he's gonna crush his ADP, but right now, man, I'm just not seeing, unless there's a major breakthrough happens, I'm not seeing that value come back.
Yeah, and I'm definitely buying that potential there. I the projection systems are always notoriously lower on younger guys because the lack
Sure.
of major league data that exists. But for me, man, like I mentioned, the plate discipline numbers are what's the biggest obstacle in my opinion. For him, but I think he showed just enough, right? Like I said, if he had been sub 70% on the overall contact rate, the end zone contact rate, if it was sub 80%. But I think we have good enough numbers here that he showed me just enough that I think where he's just waiting to break out, just waiting to really really bust through. And it's yeah, it might be an aggressive call on my part, but it's one I'm fairly confident in. I really like Roman Anthony this year. I really think he's gonna take some major strides. This dude was the top prospect in baseball last year.
Oh, yeah, no,
Uh, and,
absolutely. I
yeah,
just kinda
so
wonder if we're 1 year too early on him, you know what I mean? Like, that's
yeah,
kinda what it feels like. Like,
I
it's
get you.
coming, but he's 21, man, like,
Yeah,
let's give him
yeah.
1 year.
And maybe this is, people are dying on the Connor Griffin hill. I'm not dying on that hill. I'm gonna die on the Roman Anthony hill instead.
I'd rather die
And
on Robert Anthony Hill than Mechanic Griffin Hill, I'm not gonna lie. I feel you on that one.
right, right. Right on, man. Let's move on to your favorite pitcher targets.
So obviously it would be Crochet, but he's expensive. But,
Yeah.
Ranger Suarez is
Right.
the one I like. I mean, he's not awesome, like, but he's good, and sometimes you just need good. Like, you just
Yeah.
need boring and good.
Yeah.
You know, just under a 9K per 9 rate, so you're gonna basically get that, like, 155 innings, 150 Ks, like, okay. Ratios are gonna be solid, not awesome. Again, he's just a guy, and sometimes you just need, like, "Hey, I'm gonna take upside over here, and then, hey, look, Ranger Suarez is just gonna balance me back out," and that's a
Mhm.
perfect pick, and he's going pretty cheap. I didn't write down his ADP because I was doing this last second before the show started, but,
Yeah.
it's not he's not expensive.
Not at all. Yeah, no, absolutely. And the thing is, he can really blow his ADP out of the water if he can get to 180 innings, and which I don't see why he can't. He's been sitting at around 27,
Sure.
28 starts and 160 innings or 155 innings for the past few seasons. I guess he's been having some like a nagging injury here and there that keeps him from getting to 30 starts. But I don't see why he can't. And if he gets to 30 starts and gets to 180 innings, he's going to blow this ADP out of the water. It's kind of like a Drew Rasmussen kind of guy, or like a Logan Webb before he blew up the strikeout rate last year. Just going to accumulate, accumulate, accumulate with good ratios, and it's rock solid kind of guy. My target here. I put Sonny Gray and Johan Albiado. I think there might be some like fatigue with Sonny Gray happening here. The fastball velocity did dip down, but he's got such a deep pitch mix that I think he's going to be able to account for it, and he's already accounting for it. His four seam usage has dropped off the last couple of seasons. He's a smart pitcher. He knows what he's doing. You got enough whips on his secondaries. I think he's going to be able to maintain a good strikeout rate. He's always had a good walk rate. I think it's just someone that I think people are just kind of I guess it's fatigue. I don't know why his price has dropped a little bit this year, but I'm there to buy the dip. Then my second target here is Johan Abiado. I mean, this guy's hella cheap right now. I think it's because people are afraid of Toley and Early taking him out eventually. But I think Abiado is going to be able to hold his own. I think the Red Sox are going to be able to get a lot out of him. That's what we saw from him in Pittsburgh. Let's see here. He's always induced soft contact around 6 to 7% on the barrel rate here. He got the swing and strike rate up to 11.7% last year with an overall contact rate of only 72%. That's a really, really good number. That's what he did in Pittsburgh, and I believe in Boston's pitch development a little bit more than Pittsburgh. And so I very much am in on Obiado this year. I think he's going outside the pick
Mhm.
300 right now. So I think he's a great late round flyer. So yeah. So any more thoughts on that before we talk a little bit prospects before we move on to the Yankees and Blue Jays?
My 5 seconds on Gray is I'd be worried. I do sort of worry about him in Fenway.
That's fair.
I don't
That's fair.
think it was a good landing spot for him.
Yeah, that's fair. There's a little bit of a home run risk there, but I think that at the end of the day, he's got a deep pitch mix, and I think he's going to be able to find a way to limit the damage there because he's just a smart pitcher. And I think going from going from a kind of a I don't want to say crap show in St. Louis, but going to a legit contender is going to kind of revitalize him a little bit. Let's see here. The prospects here. Who you want to talk about?
So I look again, not the biggest prospect guy, and the Red Sox don't have guys that I feel like are gonna make a giant impact this year that haven't already seen the majors, which is what your criteria was. So I'm gonna
Right.
cheat. I'm go with
That's fine.
I'm gonna go get the two that you mentioned already, Tole and Early, right? They're the guys that are getting drafted. They're the prospects that are getting drafted. I like Early more. You saw the numbers last year when they both came up, and totally struggled to where Early didn't. So I think if there's somebody's going to get the job first, it's going to be Early. So I really just that would be the one that I would go after. Outside of that, man, there's not a lot of room for these guys to
Mhm.
get spots to come up
Exactly.
anyway.
Yeah.
You need a Trevor Story injury, which I mean, let's be real, could
But
very likely happen,
easy.
but they have a lot of moving parts even with their major league roster that they could fill that hole, and so there's just not a lot of space.
Yeah, yeah, no, early January, I had early in my rankings, but with the acquisitions that they've made, there's just no more spots for him, and so it makes him. I mean, he's a good late round target. He's a good guy that if you want to pick up late in a deep league and see what happens, it's totally fine. He's definitely someone to watch in 12 teams. He gets called up, you got to pick him up immediately. And
Mhm.
then for me, the a prospect I'm watching is going to be their first round pick. It's Kyson Witherspoon, draft day faller, man. He surprisingly dropped to 15th in the draft this year. The Red Sox went over slot for him with $5 million, and so the Red Sox are buying in on him. I'm gonna buy in on him. He touches 99 with the fastball already. He has a low 90s mile an hour on the fastball on the cutter. The only question really is going to be is can he start to spot his other secondaries? He has a good movement on his curveball and a gyro slider as well. The only question is can he get the command on that? Maybe Witherspoon might bottom out as a late inning reliever. But I think that if he can find a way to really command the curveball and slider to go with the elite fastballs, then I think he can really start to make some noise. So yeah, any more on the process before we move on?
Nope. Let's do
Right
it.
on. Yankees are up next. They're tied for first with the Blue Jays. 90.5 wins on the over under on FanDuel. Under at -112. Under at minus 108. You got the over under on this.
I mean, you gotta take the over. It's the
Yeah.
Yankees, man. This is an elite lineup, and the pitching staff is not. the best, but it works for
Yeah,
for that offense, it works.
yeah, man, and you got a rotation right now that has like someone like Luis Heel with this kind of upside. It's probably going to be their fourth or fifth starter. And then you got Ryan Weathers added onto this, and then eventually you're going to add Carlos Rodon and Garrett Cole. To the rotation, and so there's going to be like midseason pickups for them, and so I'm very much in on this red on the Yankees team. You know, the rotation is going to be solid. Lineup is elite. The bullpen is really good with Ednar, Fernando Cruz, Tim Hill, Jake Berg. These are all guys that I think that can really Camilo Duvall. These are all guys that are going to be able to be such a really good bullpen. So yeah, you got to take the over with the Yankees here. Give us your hitter target.
So I'll let you take yours. I had them written down too. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna preface this and say this is more so in a daily league, daily roster lineup, and that's Giancarlo Stanton, right? We know he's gonna get a lot of rest days, but man, if any day he's in the lineup, I want him in my like.
Yeah.
I'm just he just hits home runs. Like that's what he
Yeah.
does now. He's in the lineup and he hits home runs. I mean, 24 home runs last year in 77 games. What?
Yeah.
Okay. Now that pace is probably not going to keep up, but let's give him 80 to 90 games and you can hit the same number. That's still really, really good. Um, so yeah, this is more so of a daily lineup league than a weekly league because weekly leagues, you don't know how many games he's gonna play. But I mean, even in a weekly league, if he's your outfielder like five or like your utility spot, like maybe it still work because he still might outperform your utility guy who plays 6 games that week and he plays 4
Yeah.
because he just
Yeah.
hits so many home runs.
Dude, his per game value is through the roof. I mean, he's definitely a guy that he can really make up for the lack of overall playing time with the way he's able to just produce so much in the time that he is on the field. So yeah, absolutely. Daily change leagues definitely have Stanton on your roster because you can just plug him in when he plays, and he's got like a 30% chance of getting you a homer that game, which is insane to say, but is probably true. And that's and especially batting in that Yankee lineup is it's not gonna be empty homers either. There's gonna be guys on base for him, and so I love John Carlos Stanton in a daily change league for sure. My target is Trent Grisham. He's a
That's
guy that had that career year last year, and his ADP did not skyrocket. He's a guy that looking like he's going to lead off again for the Yankees. Going to have a great on base batting in front of a guy named Aaron Judge. So he's going to be able to score a lot of runs, good on base. So even if the power doesn't come back, it's going to be okay because he's still going to be able to score 80 to 90 runs and accumulate the stats. But I don't think the power is going to go away. You know, we're looking at a guy that consistently has had double digit barrel rates throughout his career. Even whenever he was struggling, we still saw the barrel rates there. The big thing with him was getting the strikeout rate down. And so that's the one thing to look out for is can he continue to get that strikeout rate to be where it's at? It's for him to be able to get those homers because you know that's the only thing. The quality of contact really has been there for him for a lot of his career. The only question has been can he get the strikeouts a little bit more under control, make a little more contact, get a little more of those barrels going. But even if the power goes back to like 20 homers, still looking at a guy that hit around 20 homers, get about 80 to 90 runs scored, you know, with the batting average that won't tank you. And he's going well past pick 200 at this point. Yeah,
mhm.
I'm all in on Trent Grisham at this draft price. I think he's got the floor to work with, and he's got a ceiling to be like a top 20, top 25 outfielder if the power comes back.
Yeah, I have no idea why his ADP is not higher than it is. And I
Mhm.
just missed him this weekend in my Earth League draft
Mhm.
by like
Man.
3 picks. And I looked over it. I looked over Steve and was like, seriously, man? 3 picks.
Yep, yep. I think I was able to pick him up in an NFBC 50 toward the end there. And I also think I think I got him on TGFBI. I cannot remember, but I've got him a couple of spots. I'm very much in on him. Let's see here. It's a prospect you want to talk about?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
gonna go with Carlos Lorraine. Oh, did we skip?
We skipped pitchers. My bad.
So I'll do my pitcher. So I am gonna go with Bluesky, heel. Just stay healthy. We know the upside, and yes, I get that Cole and Rodon could push him out. But if there's other injuries before then, heel stays in. If he's performing, they're not going to take him out, right? Like just because
Mhm.
they'll find a way to keep him in there, even if they have to go to like a 6 man, which actually might help them considering they've got some injury, issues with this rotation. Uh,
Mhm.
so we've seen it from him before, and when you're talking about like super late round guys, I want I'd rather take a chance on somebody super late round who's done it before and it wasn't that long ago and just had like one hiccup season in between than
Yeah.
somebody who has never done it and we're just like hoping and praying.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he was a rookie of the year. I mean, the guy undoubtedly has talent. The only question is, can he stay healthy? And like you said, the Yankees rotation has so many injury question marks. There's going to be a path for him to make enough starts to be well worth a late round flyer, especially in the deeper leagues. Definitely going to be someone that's whole teamers you're going to have to keep an eye on because if he's making starts, you want him on your roster. My target, a couple of them. First, I think Carlos Rodon's one of the better draft and stash options if you have an IL spot
Mhm.
on your team. I mean, what I love about Rodon last year is that he started to miss barrels. He started to limit the damage. The strikeouts have always been there for him. The only question has been, can he limit the damage? Can he can he start to induce more ground balls? That's exactly what he did by throwing a little bit more sinkers, throwing a little more changeups, and throwing less four seamers. And so now he's starting to limit damage a lot better. Going to be able to help keep those ratios under control. And we know about the strikeouts are already there. And then I put David Bednar here because for me, I'm a guy who likes to kind of fade closers as much as I possibly can. And Bednar's kind of at the back end of that top tier closers that makes it to where I don't have to pay a super high premium and get pretty close to high premium return. And so that's why I like David Bednar. The price isn't great, but I don't think the price is great for any closer, at least none of the top 9 or 10 options. And so I want to target someone on the back end of that, and he's a guy who I've drafted quite a bit already.
Yeah, I like that one. I like the Bednar, especially like that end of the second tier of like
Hmm.
closer. He's not the elite, but he's like in that next mix.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't have to draft him in the fourth round. Is what I like the most about him.
Dude, my
The price.
Earth 15 teamer,
Mhm.
Diaz went at the very last pick or the first pick of the second round. I mean, like pick 16. Everybody was like, "Whoa!" And man, did it set off a fire sale for relievers. And I just like did not. I was like, "There's no way this will continue," and it just kept going. And I'm like, "Well, fine." I got stuck with I sadly got stuck with Iglesias as my first one. Like that's how bad it was.
Oh, that's
I
I
just
would just
waited
start
until, like, it
crying.
kinda stopped, and I was like, "Gee."
It's like, let's pause the second round here. Everyone take your closer, and then we'll restart in the third round. Like God, that's
Oh, it was wild, man, it
crazy.
was so wild. I was like,
Oh,
"My
that's
gosh, please
insane.
stop."
And insanity, man. Insanity. All right. Who's the prospect for the Yankees you're watching?
Carlos LaRange,
Yeah.
much like all the other guys, just absolute fireballer. Gotta work
Mhm.
on control just like a lot of these guys, but, you know, uh, there is gonna be any guy that comes up for the Yankees if he doesn't just, if he doesn't like a 5 ERA in the minors, like he's gonna get the call up at some point for the team. Even if it's like it could just be like bullpen, right? But he'll be interesting.
Yeah, no, his stuff is electric. I love Lagrange. I almost put him down for my prospect. I went with Elmer Rodriguez. Like, looking at Baseball America, he has a 49%, no, 48% whiff rate on the curveball, 36% chase on the changeup, and he throws three different fastballs. Got a four seam, two seam, and cutter. I just I'm a sucker for these prospects that already show a good pitchability, where they're able to mix their fastballs and mix their secondaries together, depending on their matchups. He's got a lot of options to go to, and I love the overall makeup for him. Very a little more mature than most, with his abilities, and he's got to strike it, the swing and miss. A lot of times you see a prospect that has this deep of an arsenal. He's kind of a high floor, low ceiling kind of guy, but Elmer Rodriguez has, I think, a really good ceiling to go with the floor. And so I traded for him in my dynasty league, and I'm very excited about the future. Might not make too much of an impact this year, but I think in 2027 and beyond, he's going to be someone to really pay attention to.
Mhm.
Right on, right on. All right, let's wrap things up with the Blue Jays. They've tied the first of the Yankees at 94 and 68 on the record. FanDuel over under at 88.5. Who you got? What you got on that one?
Uh, I'm gonna go with the under.
Uh,
I think it
yeah.
was a great story last year. I think there was a lot of overperformers on this team that
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I just and look, I mean, maybe Vlad Guerrero kind of gets back to the Vlad Guerrero we were all used to, but I don't think it's gonna matter. Like, are we gonna get Varsho to do what he did again? Are we gonna get Springer to do what he did again? I don't know.
Yeah.
And then the bottom of part of this lineup, Jimenez is, I mean, he was awesome for like the first 3 weeks, and then it was not great. They've got a lot of guys that they can kind of platoon with, which is nice if you just got a lot of depth. But
Mm,
um, yeah, I do actually really like I I like the top part of their rotation, especially bringing in Cease.
yeah.
Um, and Yesevich was amazing for them, and hopefully that carries over uh, into the full regular season that he can get. But their their bullpen is scary, especially
Yeah.
their closer. Like, he
Yeah.
was dude, like, he had a ton of saves last year, but, like, home runs, like, you gotta
Yeah.
stop.
Those are more problems, man.
He got really lucky,
Mm,
that he did not get pulled from that job a couple of times last year, I feel like. But that's kinda tells you the story of that bullpen. They don't really have anybody else they trust to put in
mhm,
there. They
mhm.
just kept going with him. And they got into the World Series, so whatever, right? But man, it's kind of scary in a few spots for
Yeah.
them. So a little bit under. This will be good, but I think it's going to be under.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. There's so many things had to go right for them last year, and all the things did go right for them. And in baseball, I can't. Does lightning strike twice? I don't know. That I kind of doubt it. That, like you said, the Varshaw's going to have to perform. Kirk's going to have to perform. Akamado's going to have to come over and perform. Andres Jimenez is going to have to turn himself back into what he was in Cleveland. And these are all guys that the draft price in fantasy isn't bad, right? And so I think those are two different questions, right? Like, are they
Right.
fantasy buys, or what's going to happen in real baseball? Are two separate questions. And so these are some of these guys are mentioning. I think I might buy in fantasy, but in terms of in terms of real baseball, in terms of getting some wins for Toronto, I'm not. I'm also on the under when it comes to them. Now, like you said with Hoffman, they're outside of Hoffman. I mean, their bullpen is what? Braden Fisher. Let's see here. Brandon Little. I mean, Louis Varlin was nice, but was that a one-off? He was a former starter turned reliever. Yario Rodriguez has the stuff, but he has yet to really command it. So it's just way too many question marks for me. So let's get into our buys here. Who are you targeting on the hitter side?
So as much as so it's funny. Initially I called him a bust on my own show, but the draft cost is not gone the way that I thought it would. And so he's becoming more of a buy for me. Now, I don't think he will repeat what he did last year, and that is George Springer. I mean, that was almost a career year for George Springer at the ripe old age of 36.
Yeah.
Like, no, no. I mean, well, I guess he was 35 last year.
That's still,
Um,
yeah.
but still, like, that was pretty much a career year for him. Okay. but let's be real, his ADP is still hovering around 100 overall. You give me a 25-15 guy with a 260 average in a lineup that could still score some runs, right? Because I think they're just sneaky enough to be able to do it, right? I That's fine. He'll be my, like, outfielder 3 at that point, and I have him everywhere. My Earth League draft, I actually got him, uh, 15 picks past his ADP, which was shocking. So I was like, "Okay." And it's funny, I talked about how much I don't really like this team. I just realized I have 4 Blue Jays on my on my Earth League team.
Yeah.
So, go Blue Jays.
Right? Yeah, no, like I said, fantasy is a totally different question, right? And so, especially looking at ADP and the prices and what the potential is, there are guys on here that I don't hate. It's just I doubt that they're all going to end up being top 100 guys again. You're
Right,
gonna.
yeah.
Yeah, so and so for me, I'm the same way. At the end of last year, I was warning people about drafting George Springer because I really thought that after the name recognition, great season. I really thought he was going to be someone pushing to the top 50 or so in ADP. I really was like, oh man, people are going to buy into this hardcore and I'm going to be
Mhm.
way out. But the ADP just never rose.
Not
Same way I mentioned was the guys like Trevor Rogers earlier and Trent Grisham, guys coming off career years. Generally, I'm avoiding because the ADP gets to be too damn expensive. The rent's too damn high. And for this price at I think he's currently at 92 in the ADP. In the last month in these online champions. Hell yeah, sign me up, man.
I got
He's
him at
definitely someone
101.
that can. What's that?
I got him at 101, and that's at a
Nice.
15-teamer. Yeah. I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, "Okay, thanks."
Fuck yeah, that's awesome. That's a great value because the ceiling is what he did last year, but the floor is still like you said. 25 home run guy, 10 to 15 steals, decent batting average, batting at the top of a pretty okay lineup at least. Going to get you plenty of runs. I mean, it's a solid 5 category dude. You're getting around pick 100. Yeah, that's what's up. Very
Mhm.
much in on that gravy train there. So I got two kind of deeper league options here. Jesus Sanchez has been I've been a big fan of Jesus Sanchez for a very long time. He is the crap out of the ball. He's always had double digit barrel rates here. The second half of the Astros last year was so disappointing for me personally because I was such a big Jesus Sanchez fan. Then the trade happened, and I was like, all right, he's going to go to a contender, going to get a lot of RBI, going to really break out. Yeah, it wasn't very good at all last year, but that was an outlier in my opinion. I mean, this one bad second half, just doesn't add up. He's good power and speed kind of guy. Yeah, he's a platoon, but it's a very very cheap cost with Jesus Sanchez. He got what was it, the strikeout rate? He got the strikeout rate down from 26% down to 22%. The ground ball rate dropped from the 48 to 50% range, got down to 43%. He's starting to pull the ball more to 42% of the pull rate. Good end zone contact rate now at 85%. Got the swinging strike rate down to 13%. And so I love what we're seeing from Jesus Sanchez. And then Andres Jimenez. He's definitely not Bo Bichette in terms of real baseball, but he's a guy that had 30 still seasons in Cleveland, had a 250 plus batting average, and he has halfway decent lift and pull. It's not like extremely awesome, but I can see him getting to 10 homers, 25 to 30 steals, 250 or so batting average, and he's going post pick 300. All right. Cool. Yeah, no, absolutely. He's currently second base eligible. He's going to be the everyday shortstop, so he's going to gain eligibility. And so I at that draft price, yeah, give me a 30 steal guy at post pick 300. Give me that. Give me that all day. I love that. Love that value there for Jimenez. Your thoughts on Sanchez and Jimenez before we move on to the pitchers?
No, I mean, they're fine. Nobody I'm, like, super targeting, but, late enough, why not?
Yeah, that's why I had to go deeper here because my rankings for a lot of these guys that I see I'm kind of right around the market. I'm kind of right around where their ADP is, kind of where they had my rankings, and so I decided to go pretty deep here. So who's your pitcher target for the Blue Jays?
Eh, Weirdly enough, man, it is Dylan Cease.
Nope.
I have Gosman in one place, and it's only because he, like, Again, that 15-teamer is the only one I
Yeah.
have him in, and, like, you've sorta gotta pull the trigger on some pitchers that you're not feeling so awesome about, but, Gausman was sort of like, I needed somebody who I could rely on at that point. They were all flying off the board. I almost had Cease. The reason why I like Cease is, like, he is legit the last pitcher off the board that you just feel like no doubter he's giving you 200 strikeouts.
Yo.
And, like, there might be a couple guys later on that do it, but, you just don't feel great about them, as good about them. Look, Cease ERA and WHIP is terrifying.
Mm-mm.
And, like,
Yeah,
he's,
man.
I think Pitcher List likes to call them, cherry bombs.
Yeah.
There we go, man. Dylan Cease is absolutely that. But, man, we've seen seasons of him, like, just 2 seasons ago with San Diego, 3.5 ERA, a 107 WHIP. It's in him, right? He's
Mhm.
just gotta put it all together for a season. Toronto is sort of the same sort of ballpark factors as San Diego, so I don't think he, like, really gains or loses anything there. Just has to kinda keep things under control and limit hard contact, for him, and I think that's just gonna be something he's gotta do. Like, last year, he just got murdered by the home run ball. And so if he can limit the home runs just even slightly, I think we're looking at a bounce back pitcher that's gonna have a 3.6, 3.7 ERA and maybe a 1.12 WHIP and 200 strikeouts. Sign me up.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? You pair him up with a couple of our other targets like Ranger Suarez and Drew Rasmussen. They can help buoy those ratios for you. And so you can go with Cease to get the elite strikeout upside, might risk your ratios. But you know what? You pair them up with those safer options later in the draft where you're going to really help those ratios out for you. Then hey, that's not a bad strategy.
Again,
And especially
7th round in 12 teamers.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy. A 200
mhm,
strikeout guy like him who's got
yeah,
history of being elite in
yeah.
other places, 7th round? Yeah, I mean, I'm doing it.
I mean,
This is
it's another example of why you can face starting pitchers in his 12 teamers, man. Like
mm,
you can wait, unless like a top dog falls to you like it did for me and Crochet. Then you know what? Just wait. Build up that starting pick, build up your hitters, and then go pick up a Dylan Cease, your SP1. Go pick up a uh I'm blanking on names right now, but you can get your SP1 in round 6, 7, 8, and be just fine because you can go and pick up a lot of these, SP1, SP2 guys post round 6 or 7. Just get like 2 or 3 of those as opposed to one major ace, and you're golden. And so, yeah, absolutely, man. My target here is Jeff Hoffman. He's again just after Bednar. He's going after Carlos Estevez. Yeah, I'm taking Hoffman over Estevez. That's for sure.
mm,
And the thing is that, like you mentioned, the home run issue last year. That's because the barrel rate was really, really outlier-y. It was 12.8% on the barrel rate. Historically, his barrel rate has been a lot better than that. And for me, when it comes to bullpen arms, the sample size is so small. When I see an outliery number like that, I almost feel like I can just ignore it. I can just say, you know what? For many, many years before that, he wasn't that guy. And so, maybe, it's kind of speculating here, is that maybe as a closer, he decided to pitch a lot more in the zone, to try and just get those 3 outs. And that's where he ran into trouble. That's just speculation. I don't know what the ball rate and the zone percentage was for him. But at the end of the day, though, man, that but barrel number was just super outliery. Just doesn't make sense compared to the rest of his career. And so I think he's going to get that under control. But also, like we mentioned before, the bullpen in Toronto doesn't have hardly any competition. Yimi Garcia might be the biggest one, but he's hurt right now. And so it's going to be his job. And, it was a little concerning around December and January. The Blue Jays did not publicly commit to Hoffman as their closer, which made me think they're going to go out and sign like a Robert Suarez kind of guy. But that never happened. They never went out and got anybody. So their full faith and trust now in Hoffman. Again, I don't like to pay premiums for my closers. He's someone that you can get later and get yourself 25 or so saves with a decent strikeout number. And he might, who knows? Maybe the barrel rate does come back, but at the end of the day, I think he's someone that should get the barrel rate back under control and get those home runs under control. Because it doesn't track that just one season like that is going to be like the new norm for him. Your thoughts on Hoffman before we round out with the prospects and be done?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He does scare me because we've seen history with him, although it was Colorado, where ratios and things weren't good, control wasn't good. Um, I mean, it's a flamethrower though, man. Like that's the thing. And you mentioned Estevez. It's kind of like pick your poison. Like I think Estevez is going to be a safer guy as far as ratios and things like that, but he doesn't strike out people. And so sometimes that leads into more trouble for your closer because if you don't have that punch out pitch, then you can't get out of trouble when you get a guy on base here and there. But I think Estevez is very, very good. Hoffman, yeah, he scares me. I did have him last year because he was super late. I was just like, I mean, I'll take him. But yeah.
Yeah. I get the consternation. He's not like a top 5 or 6 closer for me, but he's someone that's falling. And if I'm the guy that's going to be fading closers, and I'm going to try and get some on the back end of the second tier or so, maybe top end of the third tier, however you view it, then he's someone that I will be drafting because at the end of the day, if he can give me 25 saves, and like around 90 or so strikeouts, comparatively speaking, in the draft price where other closers are going, because the market says closers are apparently top 100 guys, then it kind of is what it is, and that's the main reason here to why it happened. Because the rest of the pitching staff for Toronto is, again, I'm kind of right along ADP. I'm not reaching for any of them. Yesevich would have been it, but I don't like what we're hearing out of camp about the whole workload restrictions, about how he's going to be like a 3 or 4 inning guy to begin the year, and how long is that going to last? They went out and got Max Scherzer back, so
Mhm.
to add a little depth to the rotation. So I don't know if Yesevich is going to have the innings to justify where people are drafting him, and so that's the only reason why I don't have him here, because I love Yesevich. I love him. I just yeah, I just don't know if I can trust the volume for 2026. Let's at the end of the day, we got one prospect here we're going to talk about. Who you got?
Man, I'll let you have it because we picked the same guy. You probably know
No.
more about him than I do, but I think I think this was kind of a no-brainer.
The good old Ricky Tiedemann, man. Ricky T.
Yeah.
This guy, incredible strikeout upside. In a very small samples, yes, yes, yes. But in the 2023 and the minors, he had a 38% strikeout rate, and then in the next season before the injuries happened, the strikeout rate got to 40+% on the strikeout rate. I mean, the dude's stuff is absolutely electric. The problem is the health. Man, he had so much helium in spring training. I think in 2024, was it, where he was just all the rage, was striking everyone out, looking so good. And then the elbow gave out, and now he's back to not throwing again. They're obviously very much slow playing him. They've got depth in rotation this year where they don't need him this year. They just need him to try and stay healthy and get through a season. But man, if he can do that, if he can come out and give me like 100 innings, give me 100 innings, keep that strikeout rate in at least the mid 30s or so. If he can do that, then I think 2027 we're going to see Ricky T really break out. But for this year, what I'm watching is, can he get to 100 innings? Can he give me 100 innings, give me 120 strikeouts, and show us the stuff? Show us that he's still got it. Right now he's not throwing, but they're just treating him with kid gloves. And eventually, hopefully, if he can give us that volume, just a little bit of volume. I'm not asking for a lot here. I'm not asking to throw 150. Give me 100. Give me 100 innings. Show me you can at least do it somewhat. And then we can talk about 2027.
Yeah, he's also gotta get the walks down, man.
Oh yeah, yeah,
That's bad. Like, I talked about walks with all the other guys.
mhm, yeah,
They're way worse. Way
right.
worse, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But man, you know what, man? If he can keep a strikeout rate up well in the 30% range, then you can kind of live with a double-digit strikeout rate. I mean, like Blake Snell has a horrible walk rate as well.
Mhm.
I'm not saying team is going to be Blake Snell. Blake Snell's definitely the exception, not the rule. But with this type of stuff and his strikeout upside, the swing and miss is insane with him. You can almost live with a 10% walk rate if the strikeout rate stays well above 30%. So, but again, it would be ideal if he did limit the walks. But for me this year, it's the volume. To stay healthy, show us you can stay healthy, and then hopefully the rest can fall into place. Right, right on, man. Is anything you want to discuss that you think we glossed over? You want to extrapolate before we end the podcast?
No, man, I think AL East is one of the more fun divisions in baseball, always has been, and there's a lot of talent here, so enjoy.
Yeah. Always a fun division to pay attention to, man. The wild card Rays and then the rest of the big dogs. So, all right, man. Joe, tell us one more time where we can find you, what you're up to, and where listeners can get more of you.
Yeah, of course. Fantasy6pack.net is where the site is, my rankings. We've got some tools and data over there as well that I help run. All the content over there that it's written by our staff is amazing. I'm over on Twitter, X at F6P_Joe. On Bluesky, it's something very similar. I don't actually memorize it. And then Fantasy Six Pack Hour over on YouTube, and we're on Apple and Spotify and all that kind of good stuff as well.
Right on, right on. And those rankings are very valuable, always in the top 5 per fantasy pro. So you know what you're talking about, man. You got a history of doing it and doing it really well. And I really appreciate you being on the podcast, man. So make sure you go follow him. Make sure you go check out his stuff with the Fantasy Six Pack. A lot of goodies over there for you, everybody. So make sure you follow me on Twitter at PaulW_34 to get more of me. Same thing on Blue Sky with no underscore at PaulW34. Make sure you check out our draft cut at sportsethos.com to get all the goodies that help you win your leagues. Join the Fantasy Pass for just over $6 a month to help you win. We got Draft Tracker, got rankings, got Dynasty rankings, got everything you need to win your leagues. And this always please rate and subscribe to the podcast. Please rate and subscribe to the podcast. Really help push it out. I would love you forever. I'm Paul Williamson. He's Joe Bond. This has been Fantasy MLB Today, a Sports Ethos presentation brought to you by FanDuel. Y'all have a good one.